iHeartRadio app.
Some people think fall is the best time of the year. It may also be a great time to consider getting vaccinated against COVID-19. Brought to you by BioNTech and Pfizer.
On Twitter, make sure to give us a follow. Search 1410 Kinner for Justin Kinner on Twitter. That's 1410 KINNER. And ESPN Dayton for the station Twitter handle. We're live. We're live. We're local. We're Dayton's ESPN radio station. Now, let's send it to the WING studios. For Dayton, it's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash on 1410 ESPN Radio. We're live. We're local. We're Dayton's ESPN radio station. Now, let's send it to the WING studios for Dayton's only local sports talk show. It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash, presented by Orion Sports Medicine.
All right, welcome in. Hour 2. It's the Justin Kinner Show with you live here on Dayton's ESPN radio station, 1410 Wing AM. We're coming at you live here, not just on 1410 Wing AM. We appreciate those of you who do listen on the radio, but we're also accessible on Facebook as well. Head to Facebook, search the Justin Kinner Show. That's where you can watch the show live and hang out with Kev Nash and I weekdays from 3 to 6. You can also watch the Keith Byers Show every Monday from noon to 1, as well as all of our live and local programming. So make sure you check that out. Search the Justin Kinner Show on Facebook, as well as ESPN Dayton's page, and then also ESPN Dayton's YouTube channel. Search ESPN Dayton on YouTube. Follow, like, subscribe, follow along, be a part of all that we do. We do a lot of giveaways. We give away a lot of concert tickets, event tickets, so make sure that you are there, sporting event tickets, obviously. So hang out with us on the Facebook page. Head to the Justin Kinner Show Facebook page now. Watch the show live, and you can, of course, put the ugly face with the annoying voice that you hear every day weekdays from 3 to 6. So the Reds season ended over the weekend. Did you guys know that? Do you guys still know who the Reds are? And that professional baseball team, I think that's like an hour south from here. I think they're the Reds, right? Like, I think we've all heard of them. I'm a little salty when it comes to the Cincinnati Reds. And it's one of those things where it's kind of like in the NCAA tournament in March Madness, where especially, for Dayton Flyers fans, like whenever your team is in it and then your team gets eliminated, or you think your team's going to be in it and then they don't win the conference tournament and then they're not in it. I know March Madness, everyone loves it, but isn't it hard to watch March Madness when your team's not in it? Especially like for Flyer fans. Look, and Dayton has a historic program, don't get me wrong, but like if you think back over this last decade, all of the, the fun things that we've seen, especially in March when it comes to the deep, March Madness runs, the Elite Eight, the Sweet 16s, all that fun stuff. But then when your team gets knocked out, it's hard to care about the rest. When your team doesn't make it after experiencing that fun, it's hard to care about the rest. Last night, the Major League Baseball playoffs started, the wild card in the American League between the Yankees and the Boston Red Sox, easily the biggest rivalry in all of baseball. And it's interesting to me. I have a hard time watching the playoffs for baseball, not because I find the sport boring, not because I'm not a fan of baseball, but it's because it's a constant slap in the face of, yeah, your team ain't this. Your team is not. No, I'm not saying, of course, they're not the Yankees or the Red Sox, but your team's just not good enough to be on display. And it's really frustrating because I thought this past year, the Reds were good enough to make some noise. I thought this past year was one of those situations where the Cincinnati Reds were going to be able to make some noise, make the playoffs, and get a little bit more spotlight on them, as I believe that they actually deserved. And I know everyone wants to talk about the flaws. My thing with baseball is this: even the best of the best teams are not perfect. There's no such, every team out there, for instance, the Cincinnati Reds right now, they won 83 games. I predicted that they'd be about an 85-win team. At the beginning of the season, I predicted that they would have 85 wins on the season. I said that's about 500. That's who the Reds are. They're just a little above that. They're just a little above average. That's who they are. They're going to win more games than they lose. But 85 wins is a lot. You're talking about, one more series goes your way, two more. It's a 162-game series. Let's say 2 to 3 more series, and there's a lot of series that they lost that they should not have lost. There was a lot of games in this past month that they lost to really, really bad baseball teams that they should not have lost to. This should have accidentally been a 90-win season. This should have accidentally been a 90-win season. And the expectations for this franchise are just so damn low. They're so low, and it's so frustrating because when you look at the New York Yankees, who got eliminated by the Boston Red Sox last night, have won 92 games or more for 3 straight years since Aaron Boone has been there. and they want Aaron Boone gone. David Bell has the first winning season, and keep in mind, I don't care about last season. Like, last season doesn't count to me, the COVID season. David Bell and the Reds, they win 83 games for the first time since the rebuild started back in 2014. 83 wins. They missed the playoffs. They lose to garbage teams down the stretch and choke, miss the playoffs, and the Reds give David Bell a contract extension. All Aaron Boone does is lead his Yankees to competing atop the American League East, constantly competing for division championships in the playoffs every single year, winning 90-plus games every single year, and they want him gone. Now, I'm not saying that the Reds need to be the Yankees, but there's a big difference in how winning organizations manage expectations versus losing organizations, and the Reds are a losing organization. They haven't won a World Series in almost 3 decades now. Actually, it's been over 3 decades now. Like, in 1990, the last time they won a World Series, we're heading into the 2022 season. We're wrapping up the 2021 season as the playoffs are officially underway. And I'm watching that Yankee Red Sox game last night. And, I get it. You talk about Fenway Park and how historic that park is. But, I was at Dodger Stadium over the weekend. That's a historic ballpark as well. And I'm watching the fans at Dodger Stadium. It wasn't a sold out crowd. It was a very, very large crowd. A lot of the crowd had kind of moved their way up to the top deck because of the fact that was shaded. It was 95 degrees in LA on Sunday. It was just miserably hot. I was hot sitting in the shade. But I felt like those fans cared. I mean, I saw 80, 90-year-old men and women standing up, going crazy when the Dodgers would get a hit, when the pitcher would make a strikeout. Young kids from 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, all the way up to the 80, 90-year-olds on their feet, screaming and hollering and cheering. And I've been to a lot of Reds games, especially this year, and I just don't get that same vibe. And the Reds, again, when you look at the Los Angeles Dodgers, okay, the Dodgers won 106 games this year. The Reds won 83. But yet the Dodgers and Reds could have potentially met up in the one-game wild card had the Reds actually taken care of business. And the two fan bases, the Reds fan base should be, I think, is a solid fan base. But when you just want to talk about ballpark experiences, and to me, the fans make the ballpark experience. And I know that you can come up with all these museum-type, atmosphere-type things to do. You can have, put all this random food in a helmet and say, hey, that's what makes us unique. You can have a Dodger dog. But really, all of that doesn't mean squat if you have a boring fan base filling up your stands. And that, to me, is the Reds fan base. You guys are boring. You're dull. You don't hold this team to a high expectation. And you're part of the problem. I know that I'm coming across pretty rude here, but I don't care. It's frustrating. I'm watching last night at Fenway Park, the atmosphere, how exciting and crazy that place was. Now, you're probably saying, well, Justin, it's easy for that to be exciting because they're in the playoffs. Well, I just pointed out about a month ago, I had gone to a Reds game. They just got done sweeping the Marlins, and there was 12,000 fans at Great American Ballpark. The Reds were, at that time, they had the wild card spot locked down. They were in, if the playoffs had started that day, they were in. They were a playoff team fighting to hold on to that spot. 12,000 fans at Great American Ballpark. 12,000. The Dodgers, I heard a lot of Dodgers fans say this past Sunday when I was at the game, everyone's like, well, we wish there's a bigger crowd here. This isn't a big crowd. And then by the end of the game, I look up at the scoreboard and they said today's attendance, 41,000. A bad fan attendance game. Now we're talking I get it. California, talking about LA. The size of that place is massive compared to here, but it's not the point. The point is that if the fans cared, they'd be there. You would be there. You would be there. And I'm not meaning every single game, but there's plenty of people in the city and surrounding cities to fill that ballpark. The fans just don't care. The fans expect that the front office is just going to put a contending team out on the field without being pressured to do so. You know why Dodgers spend the money that they do? Yes, because they have it. But you know why the Yankees spend the money that they do? Yes, because they have it. But you know why they do that, though? You know why they have to spend a ton of money to get star players there? Because if they don't, their fans, they'll riot. Yankees fans will burn that place to the ground before they let that team consistently be a loser for as long as the Reds have been. Dodgers fans would do the same thing. That's why, yes, they spend the money because they have it, but they spend the money because they know if they don't, their fans will hold them accountable. And what do Reds fans do? They don't even show up when the damn team's winning. It's frustrating. I'm watching these playoffs and I'm just salty and I'm just still angry because the season just ended. But it's ridiculous. The Castellinis, what do you think they're feeling right now as the offseason's officially upon us? Well, They weren't showing. I mean, we paid Nick Castellanos money. We paid Mike Moustakas money. We traded for Trevor Bauer, who, of course, is now gone, but we traded for Sonny Gray. Joey Votto, we paid him his $25 million a year back in 2012. What did that get us? Nothing. So if we're going to be at the bottom of the league in attendance and spend $150 million plus a year, we might as well spend way less than that and still remain at the bottom in attendance and then have a surplus at the end of the year because, hey, we get our money up front because, well, those wonderful, magical TV deals. I'm Justin Kinner. It's the Justin Kinner Show, presented by Orion Sports Medicine and OGW Energy Resources. Nick on Facebook says Fenway is like that for a regular Dog Day August game. But Nick, I get that. I get the like bigger cities and all that stuff, but that's my point. Like, it's like I don't consider the Reds that far off from those franchises in regards to the historic significance of them. You know, when people say that the Reds are losing generations of fans, there was such a passion and diehard excitement about the Reds organization because of the Big Red Machine, because they were winning all the time. They were winning World Series and they had personalities. They had an identity to them. The Reds today don't have an identity. The Reds get a Nick Castellanos and Mike Moustakas, and we as a fan base lose our mind. The Yankees are like, if that was our offseason, we'd be bored. I need to stop using the Yankees as the benchmark of who I should compare the Reds to, but my goodness. I mean, you look at the St. Louis Cardinals to close out the season. The Cardinals won 17-plus games or whatever it was that streak to make the playoffs. And then I saw that Reds fans were making excuses that even if the Reds gone 10-4 the last 14 games, the Cardinals' 17-game win streak would have been enough to bump them. Then the fans could appreciate that. But the Reds didn't miss the playoffs because the Cardinals won 17 straight. The Reds missed the playoffs because they lost series to the Tigers. They lost series to the Marlins. They lost series to the Pirates, multiple series to the Pirates. The Reds lost. I mean, we fans want the team, the Reds fans want the Reds to get to the playoffs to compete with good teams when the Reds have spent the last month and a half losing to bad teams. Like, that's the problem I have. And I don't know how to feel heading into the postseason. Again, at this point, I'm being super negative and super down on this team because they've ticked me off. I saw a poll earlier The Athletic put out who was the most disappointing team in baseball this year. There's a lot of good options to put in that list. I mean, if you look at the money that the Mets spent, the Mets should have been way better than they were. The Padres are probably the most disappointing team in baseball. When you look at the fact that they have Machado and Tatis Jr. and all the headlines, you look at the pitchers they went and got, Yu Darvish. I mean, my goodness, the Padres should be in the World freaking Series. They're not even in the playoffs. They're probably the most disappointing team because of the expectations. They did, obviously, the results didn't match the expectations or the work that was put in the offseason. They're obviously the most disappointing. But I have the Reds on my list. I said, look, I'm emotionally connected to the Reds. So, of course, I'm going to say that the Reds are my team that I find to be the most disappointing because this should have, at the very least, been a one-game wildcard playoff team. And, you know, that's still a low bar for me to hold my team to. But you know what? Even if we got 163 games because of that extra wild card game, hey, you know, the Castellinis could at least tip their cap to say, hey, we spent that money and we still made the playoffs, and that's all you can ask for. The front office can't even say that. I mean, I don't even know. The problem with the Reds right now is that I don't even know what their plan is come this offseason. The reason I've been able to tolerate the losing for the last, and again, scratch the COVID year last year, but the previous 5 years, the rebuild technically started in 2014. That's when the mass exodus of moving players really started. We dealt with the losing because losing was a part of the big picture to build up that farm system, to develop the farm system, to get those young cats ready so that they can call them up. And boom, there's your future playoff team. So I could deal with the losing because I could see the pieces start to come into place. I could see the development of Jesse Winker. I could see the development, of Luis Castillo and Eugenio Suarez. And I could, you know what I mean? Like, you could see all the pieces still there. Like, you could tell the direction that they were going in. Michael Lorenzen and Amir Garrett. And at the time, like Cody Reed. They had some big names that are no longer a part of the picture moving forward. Like Cody Reed is officially gone. I don't know what the future of Eugenio Suarez. So I bring up all that stuff because I'm like, okay, the Reds are losing because they had young and experienced talent. That young and experienced talent will one day turn into experienced talent that the Reds will be able to fill the holes with free agents, which the Reds started to do. When Winker finally came blasted onto the scene, when Suarez became one of the best third basemen, hitting third baseman in baseball at that time, it was like, holy crap, here we go. Tucker Barnhart, not the best hitting catcher in baseball, but my goodness, he's winning gold gloves all the time. the Reds have some pieces now. So that's why they went out and filled the gaps with free agents. They, in some trades, they added the Sonny Grays. They got the Trevor Bauers. They went and signed Moustakas. They got Castellanos. I know it didn't work out with Shogo Akiyama, but they were aggressive in getting him. I mean, he was sought after by the Red Sox and the Yankees. I mean, Akiyama has been technically kind of a bust for the Reds, but let's be clear. The Reds were the finalists to get him and obviously got him over teams like the Yankees, Red Sox, and others. He would have been a bust for those teams too, but it's just one of those situations where the Reds went all in. They went all in, and they got nothing out of it. And now I'm more concerned now because after this losing season, how this differs from other losing seasons is I don't know the plan of the Reds. I don't even know who they are. What is their identity? When the front office, a few years ago, you could say, okay, the front office sits back and says, okay, I think we're a year away from Suarez being an MVP candidate. We're a year away from Jesse Winker blasting onto the scene. I think probably after what we just saw from Luis Castillo, he's going to be a Cy Young candidate a year from now. And that's kind of how I always grasped all of this, was that we were on to something. Well, Luis Castillo's been great. Suarez hit his ceiling and has come crashing down. And of course, everyone's like, well, he played really good in September. Yeah, in meaningless games. Suarez can't handle the pressure. When it comes time to winning and there's expectations, he crumbles. But the second September gets here, when the Reds are buried, it's, I'm just free swinging. If I strike out, fine. If I hit the ball, great. There's no pressure. That's Suarez to me. I do believe he does not play well under pressure. What do you do? Castellanos is going to opt out and leave because he's going to chase the dollars, as he should. Will the Reds pay him? Doubt it. If they do open up the vault to pay him, what are they paying him for? To be an 80-win team every year? We're going to, we got a couple more years of Joey Votto's $25 million a year. All right, let's go ahead and open up the vault, and let's open up the bank and pay Castellanos for what? What's the plan? What's the direction? If you're hoping and planning that Hunter Green and Nick Lodolo come up and save you right away, look how long it took for Amir. And by the way, Amir Garrett got beat up a lot this year, okay? Maybe not a great example. But look how long Michael Lorenzen and Amir Garrett and even Cody Reed, who's no longer with the team, how long were they in the majors before we finally figured out who they were? Whether we figured out whether Amir Garrett's just average, we found out Michael Lorenzen is exceptional, we found out Cody Reed can't pitch. But how long did it take for us to basically kind of come up with that assessment? It takes years. So you're not going to pay Nick Castellanos all that money just because, we got Nick Lodolo and Hunter Green coming up. Well, what does that mean? It's going to take 2 to 3. It takes about 3 to 4 years to develop them in the minors. Then it's going to take another 2 to 3 years before you even know who the hell they are at the major league level. Are the Reds rebuilding, or are the Reds just a result of a bad rebuild? Are we about to see them blow this up once again? And I don't know. I don't know. Help me out. We're going to open it again. I'm by myself today, so the phone lines will only be open during the commercial break, which we're going to now. But help me out here. The Reds are rebuilding, or the Reds are a result of a bad rebuild? Who are they? I don't know how to feel about this team heading into the offseason. I couldn't tell you. If I ran into some listeners on the street and they said, what do you think the Reds are going to do this offseason? I have no freaking clue. I have no idea. Are they looking to lock down the foundation and keep Castellanos in Cincinnati and hope that, Mike Moustakas actually tries moving forward? What do you do? Suarez, you continue rolling him out there, hitting a pitcher's average? What do you do? Are the Reds a rebuilding team, or are they just a result of a bad rebuild? Where do the Reds go from here? Reds fans, let me hear from you. The playoffs started last night. More playoff action tonight. It's hard for me to watch the playoffs because all I keep thinking about is every time I see the crowd go crazy, I picture Great American Ballpark going crazy. Every time I see a big play being made, I picture that play being made at Great American Ballpark and the fans going crazy. Look, I bash our teams because I want them to win. It's not like when people say all you do is bash the teams are losing. Yeah, if I was bashing good teams, you have an argument there. I'm bashing the Reds because I know they finished a few games above 500, but they're not in the playoffs, and that's all that matters. Are they rebuilding, or are they just a result of a bad rebuild? 518-1410. This is the Justin Kinner Show. I'll be back in just a moment. 518-1410. Let's hear from you.
ESPN 1410 Wing AM weather.
This afternoon will be mostly cloudy with a chance of showers and thunderstorms, a high near 80. Tonight will be cloudy with showers and thunderstorms, a low near 65. And tomorrow will be cloudy with showers, a high around 76. I'm Pete Spivak for 1410 ESPN Radio.
Oh, according to research, 82% of people will remember radio ads. So, 82% of you listening will remember that this is an ad for ZipRecruiter. 82% of you will note that if you're hiring, ZipRecruiter finds qualified people for your job. In fact, 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. And 82% of you will remember that you can try ZipRecruiter for free, but you have to go to ZipRecruiter.com/free. Yes, free. Again, that's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
If you need new roofing, siding, or gutters, skylights, or patio enclosures, if you're a homeowner or business and need someone you can trust, don't take a chance. Enhance with Lance. Lance Roofing and Siding in Fairborn has been satisfying customers since 1993 and hold an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. Lance Roofing and Siding, 8460 Dayton Springfield Road in Fairborn. Call for a free estimate at 864-2722. That's 864-2722 or online at lanceroofing.com.
Hey, here to tell you about my friends at Cordell Transportation. They're now hiring Class A CDL drivers and offering a $5,000 sign-on bonus. That's right, a $5,000 sign-on bonus. Home daily, dedicated lanes, and no-touch freight. Brand new equipment as well. Medical, dental, vision, and company-paid life insurance. Call Cody right now. Apply online at CordellTransportation.com. Cordell Transportation, driven to succeed.
You have empty office space to fill or home office to create. You know what you need. You know what you'd like. But you also have a pretty good idea after you've shopped around the usual places what you need and what you like might not happen. Well, then you haven't been to Charles Larrick's Warehouse Outlet. Nobody has their selection. Nobody has their discounts. And every week there's something new. If you need office furniture, Larrick's Warehouse Outlet can sell it to you for half the price and below manufacturer's selected prices. Half price and below on hundreds of items. Selection from budget to the best. Really, desks from $50 to $5,000. Filing cabinets from $25 to $500. Before you go anywhere else, do yourself a favor and come to Larrick's Warehouse Outlet. With 25,000 square feet of selection, you're not going to go anywhere else. Larrick's Warehouse Outlet at 23 McOil Avenue, Dayton. Open Monday through Friday, 9 to 6. Larrick's, continuing the tradition.
Don't go it alone in your job search. It's time to get to know Express Employment Professionals. Find the location near you at expresspros.com. No fees for job seekers. expresspros.com.
Attention men under the age of 35. You know what really impresses the ladies? When a guy has a few drinks and later gets pulled over for buzz driving. That could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. There goes let's grab dinner and a movie. Oh, I know. You drive more carefully when you're buzzed. You've proven that hundreds of times. A woman admires that kind of confidence. And you've practiced how to speak if a cop does pull you over. Slowly, clearly, and politely like, "Good evening, officer." A woman admires that kind of foresight. And what woman doesn't find it adorable that you call it buzzed even though the law calls it drunk? You can kiss $10,000 goodbye, along with any chance of having a girlfriend. Because nothing says I'm a catch more than a guy who lives in his parents' basement and calls it my place.
Buzzed, busted, and broke. Because buzz driving is drunk driving. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Take a look under your bed. Find stuff under there? What about jobs? No? Now try your basement. There's a pair of overalls that overall you're not so into anymore. A perfectly good laptop that hasn't sat in your lap in months. And even more stuff, but still no jobs? Well, you really have both. See, stuff is defined as household articles considered as a group. Sometimes this stuff is no longer needed. Wait, no longer needed? That can't be right. Because remember those jobs you were looking for? Those are really needed, and they're the stuff inside your stuff, even inside that winter coat that moved with you to Phoenix. Our job is to unlock those jobs, and it starts when you donate your stuff to your local Goodwill. Here's how we do it. When you donate to Goodwill, we sell your stuff to provide job training for people right here in your community. So just by teaming up with Goodwill, you help create jobs. And isn't that worth parting with the leftover keytar from your 80s cover band? Goodwill. Donate stuff, create jobs. Find your nearest donation center at goodwill.org. A message from Goodwill and the Ad Council.
You wanted to see me?
Yes, please, have a seat. So here's the thing. When this company brought you on, we took a chance on you. You didn't have that 4-year college degree we typically look for.
Right.
But we gave you a shot anyway. And since then, you've worked incredibly hard and given it your all.
Thanks.
You've been an important asset to the team, but I don't think you can be an intern here anymore. We want to hire you.
You're serious?
Absolutely.
Find your next great employee. Introduce yourself to the grads of life. Who are they? Talent worth knowing about. Young adults of unique determination and experience. An ideal fit for your company in an entry-level position, internship, or even mentorship. They might not have every qualification you typically look for, but they're exactly who your company needs.
I won't let you down.
I know.
Don't miss out on a resource many innovative companies have already discovered. Go to gradsoflife.org to learn how to find, cultivate, and train this great pool of untapped talent. Brought to you by the Ad Council and gradsoflife.org.
Hey everybody, it's Stephen A. Smith, and everyone knows my feelings on Cowboys fans. But really, Justin Kenner, you're a Cowboys fan and a Browns fan? Good Lord have mercy. I don't know what the hell to do with y'all. I really don't.
It's the Justin Kenner Show with Kev Nash. Weekdays from 3 to 6 p.m. on 1410 ESPN Radio.
All right, we are back. I'm Justin Kenner hanging out with you here today on a Wednesday, hour number 2. Major League Baseball playoffs continue tonight. The Cardinals on the road at the Dodgers. They're in Los Angeles. The Dodgers, of course, and the Cardinals. Adam Wainwright for the Cardinals going up against Max Scherzer. This should be the Reds tonight. The Reds should be playing tonight. The Reds should be at the Dodgers tonight. Instead, David Bell's at home counting his money after his contract extension for having his team collapse and miss the playoffs in the second half of the season. How about that? The reason I find that interesting is so the Padres just announced that they have moved on from their manager. They have let go of their manager. Tingler is out as Padres manager after just 2 seasons. Okay. San Diego missed the playoffs and finished 4 games under 500. Remember when the season started, when the Padres and Dodgers faced one another, the atmosphere for those games was absolutely electric. Like everyone's like, these are clearly the 2 best teams in baseball. And the Padres had a second half collapse. So I tweeted out, I was like, what a horrible organization the Padres are. Don't you know the teams are supposed to give their manager a contract extension for collapsing in the second half of a season and missing the playoffs? The Padres, they need to get on the Reds level. Do the Reds have as talented of a roster as the Padres? Absolutely not. No, they don't. They shouldn't, because they don't spend the money even close to being as talented as they don't even spend as nearly amount of money as the Padres do. But the Reds roster is very, very good. You had 2 MVP candidates on there, and Jesse Winker when he's healthy, and obviously Castellanos. Joey Votto actually had MVP caliber numbers. You had 3. Technically, if all 3 of those guys stayed healthy and played all year long, we're talking about 3 MVP candidates on the Cincinnati Reds. You had 2 starting outfielders in the National League on this Reds roster. Well, Eugenio Suarez, he didn't play well this year. That's on the manager. That's on David Bell. Well, but David Bell, he doesn't swing the bat. Doesn't matter. Coaches get fired all the time. When Freddie Kitchens was fired by the Cleveland Browns, Freddie Kitchens wasn't overthrowing those passes. Freddie Kitchens wasn't dropping those passes. Freddie Kitchens wasn't giving up. Freddie Kitchens wasn't not blocking the defensive line as they're sacking Baker Mayfield left and right. No. Name one. I hate when people like, by the way, if you're one of those people, don't listen to this show. Don't talk to me, because you don't know what the hell you're talking about. I don't care if that comes across arrogant on my part. That's the dumbest take I've ever heard in my life. Well, the manager should be fired. It's not the manager's fault that the player's not performing. It's always the manager's fault. It's always the head coach's fault. It's in basketball, in football, everything, every sport, it's the head coach or the manager in baseball's fault. That's how it is, and it has been that way for the history of sports since sports began. Like, I know David Bell doesn't pick up the bat. I love when people say that. Well, gee, I'm sorry. I didn't realize it was David Bell making all those strikeouts. Well, gee, I'm sorry. I believe it was David Bell who kept putting the third baseman hitting 176 in the damn starting lineup every single day. I'm salty. The Cardinals are playing at the Dodgers tonight. And the Cardinals are playing at the Dodgers tonight because the Reds collapsed. No, Kenner. The Cardinals won 17 straight games to close out the season. That's why they're in. You know why the Cardinals won 17 straight games? They wouldn't have won 17 straight games had they not swept the Reds in the middle of that 17-game stretch. Well, the Cardinals were just playing better because they're a better team. They have a better manager. They're a better organization. That starts at the top and goes all the way down. You're not going to convince me that the Cardinals roster is that much better. It's not better. I don't think it's that much better than the Reds at all. I don't. They have, obviously, they have a couple big hitters on there. I completely get that, but their roster's not better than the Reds. I get that the Reds have had a questionable bullpen. Man, if the Reds were a few games out of first place in the first half of the season without a bullpen, imagine what they do with the bullpen. So what does the front office do? They get them a bullpen at the trade deadline. What do the Reds do? Perform worse with the better bullpen that they said, man, imagine how good we would be if we had a bullpen in the first half of the season. It's a joke. The Padres fire their manager because his team, his playoff caliber team, had a second half collapse and they didn't make the postseason. The Reds make news because David Bell and his Reds collapse in the second half after holding on to a playoff spot in August, and they give him a contract extension. Like, give me a break. I know David Bell doesn't pick up the bat, but he picks up that magical pen of his, and he writes down the name of the guys in the order every day, and he says it's because, well, we use advanced analytics, and the advanced analytics show that we need to put Eugenio Suarez at third base every day. Really? I love how advanced analytics have tried to make baseball people sound like they're so smart, yet they continue putting a guy hitting 176 in this damn starting lineup every day. Well, that number is, we don't care about that number. We don't care about that. I mean, guys win MVPs for their high batting average, but when they have a low batting average, we don't care about that number. It's a joke. There is a place for advanced analytics. I think it plays a role in every single sport. Don't get me wrong. But David Bell, give me a break. I'm just frustrated. I'm sorry, guys. I should be in a better mood today. This is on me. I apologize for the mood that I'm in today. It's just, I watched the Yankees Red Sox last night, and then I woke up today and I was like, oh yeah, the Cardinals play at the Dodgers. Super. That should be the Reds tonight. We should be talking about the Reds in the postseason tonight. We should be talking about, will the Reds win? They do the unthinkable and win in Los Angeles, beat the Dodgers and get, advance in the playoffs. I mean, we should be talking about that today. We shouldn't be talking about what I'm talking about right now, about the disappointment that I have in this organization. It's frustrating. And I'm not being a hater, folks. You can call me a hater all you want. But like I said, if you're one of those people that say, well, David Bell doesn't swing the bat, David Bell doesn't do this, David Bell might not swing the bat, but he sure as hell did put a lot of guys in that lineup that didn't swing the bat, or he put a lot of guys, he took guys out early, he took guys, put guys in too late, whatever it was. I'm just frustrated. It is what it is. It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash, presented by Orion Sports Medicine and OGW Energy Resources. So to the Facebook feed we go. David M on YouTube says, when the Reds ownership starts to be run like the hated Cardinals from top to bottom, then we'll begin to see a franchise committed to actually winning. I mean, look, and by the way, the problem with that, the reason I always ignore that, and by the way, David, you are 1,000,000% right. The reason I just don't like hearing people say that is because that's not something that happens overnight. It's not. It's like the Cardinals became the Cardinals over decades amount of time. Like it takes a lot of time to do that. By the way, I don't know about how you guys are at home. Nora gets so mad at me because when we get pizzas or something, like obviously a big frozen pizza we put in the oven, but if I get those little personal ones, or like you get the frozen chicken nuggets or French fries and stuff, like she likes to put them in the oven. She likes to preheat the oven, and then we got to wait 15 freaking hours for the oven to preheat. Then we got to wait another 25 minutes for the damn chicken nuggets and fries to cook in the oven. So frustrating. Or I can just put them in the microwave and be eating in the next couple of minutes. That's my personality. I don't like to wait. I'm not patient. I don't want to wait for the Reds to become the Tampa Rays. I don't want to wait for the Reds to become the St. Louis Cardinals. I just want them to be good. I don't want to wait on a rebuild again. I'm just not a patient person. That's a very weird food analogy. I'm hungry. I haven't eaten today, so bear with me. David also goes on to say St. Louis doesn't have a vastly superior talent to the Reds, yet like clockwork, every time they begin to be counted out, they come storming back like gangbusters. The Reds make endless excuses. Christopher Mancha on Facebook has a question about the Browns. We'll get to the Browns and coming up here in hour number 3, I promise you. Let's see. Scott Campbell says, I'm salty too. I hate the Cardinals. Yeah, I think that's what it is too. It's because it's the Cardinals. Like on top of it, it's not just that the Reds missed the playoffs. It's the fact that the team that basically bumped them out. I think the Reds bumped themselves out, but the Cardinals are the ones that took their spot. That's the hard part. Scott Campbell says, how advanced are the analytics if a 176 hitter keeps finding his way into the lineup or a star rookie shortstop gets played in center field? I'm asking the same question, Scott. I agree with you. All right. David, this time David Mann on Facebook says, it's disgusting to say, but when the Reds start to be ran the way. Oh, you're saying the same thing already. Okay. Moving on to the next one. Either way, we'll get back to a lot of this coming up here throughout the show. But yes, I'm done talking about the Reds. But I just want to know. I don't know what to expect this offseason. I don't know if they're going to be active in free agency. Are they going to be active in trades? If they're active in trades, are they looking to acquire, game-ready guys now, or are they just looking to replenish the farm system? Because keep in mind, Nick Lodolo and Hunter Green, they're going to be fast-tracked to the main roster. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if both guys aren't a part of this rotation by, April. I wouldn't be surprised if Sonny Gray is not on this roster. I wouldn't be surprised if Sonny Gray is traded. I wouldn't be surprised if Mike Moustakas is traded or just outright released. I wouldn't be surprised by anything. Every year we keep hearing about Luis Castillo's name being brought up in trade conversations. The Reds are coming up here in the next year or two to a tipping point of, do we pay him? And he's going to ask for a lot of money. He's a very, very good pitcher, but the Reds aren't going to pay him if they're nowhere close to being able to compete for the NL Central or a World Series or playoffs. I think that we are embarking on a potential rebuild again, and that's what's frustrating. I think that you can get a lot for Luis Castillo. I think you can get a couple nice pieces for Sonny Gray. I think that you could probably get some later draft picks for Eugenio Suarez. I don't know, guys. I think that by calling up, if you think that calling up Nick Lodolo and Hunter Green make the Reds playoff contenders, I think it's the opposite. Look how many years it took for us to figure out who Michael Lorenzen was. How many years did it take for us to figure out who Amir Garrett was? Amir Garrett and Michael Lorenzen were starters. Remember that, like when the Reds were rebuilding, Amir Garrett was a starter. Michael Lorenzen was a starter. Cody Reed was a starter. Michael Lorenzen is now Popeye pretending to be an outfielder and from time to time being used as a bullpen guy who was supposed to be the starter at the beginning of the season. Technically, we still don't know who the hell he is. Amir Garrett is this like super macho, really cool personality. I'm actually a big fan of Amir Garrett, but his play doesn't back up his personality. That's the only unfortunate part. We still don't technically know what his role is or who he is. We thought he would be the closer, chokes in big games. We thought he would be used as an extended relief guy. Gives up too many home runs, walks too many guys. Technically don't know who he is. Cody Reed, not even on the roster anymore. Those guys were all talked about at a very high level coming up, that they were the future of the Reds' success, that they were going to be, that next core of pitchers that were going to lead the Reds into that next successful swing, kind of like what we saw with Matt Latos and we saw with Michael Leake and we saw with Cueto and we saw with those guys. Like, no. So the Latos and the Leak and the Cueto and the Valquez and those guys, they're all gone. Now Cody Reed's gone. Luis Castillo's most likely going to be gone. These guys are all gone. Luis Castillo, then you look at Suarez, gone. So they bring up, so like I said, so you had Cody Reed, you had Cody Reed. You look at Michael Lorenzen and Amir Garrett. They were all starters when they got brought up to the Reds, when they got called up to the main roster. We're acting as if Nick Lodolo and Hunter Green are going to be the starters moving forward. We all thought that those three I just mentioned were going to be the starters of today. Because imagine if Cody Reed did pan out to be a great starting pitcher. Imagine if Michael Lorenzen did pan out to be a great starting pitcher. Imagine if Amir Garrett also panned out to be a great starting pitcher. That's two lefties, a righty. You go get your Sonny Gray. You keep your Trevor Bauer. Man, everything falls into place. But it really all came down like the crumbling of the rebuild. It started with those pitchers. The Reds failed the rebuild because they couldn't develop Amir Garrett, they couldn't properly develop Michael Lorenzen, and they couldn't develop Cody Reed. The Reds failed the rebuild because of those three guys right there. And I know Michael Lorenzen. Everyone loves Michael Lorenzen. Oh, my fiance loves Michael Lorenzen. Ugh. She finds him dreamy. I don't know. Do I look like Michael Lorenzen? I mean, are my muscles big? No. She likes Michael Lorenzen. I can't stand Michael Lorenzen. Maybe it's a jealousy thing. I don't think he's as good as people say. He's good in his bullpen role when they use him in the bullpen role. Everyone's like, oh, he's such a really good outfielder. And he's a good outfielder for a pitcher. Oh, he's a great hitter. Again, a great hitter for a pitcher. I know David Bell loves putting 170 hitters in his lineup, but that ain't it, champ. So, like I said, the reason the rebuild failed was because of that. Because imagine if Cody Reed was an all-star caliber starter along with Michael Lorenzen and along with Amir Garrett. Imagine if, you take that with the core of Jesse Winker and you look at, what Suarez was supposed to be. All of a sudden, this team we're talking about, one of the top contenders in the NL Central every year. So the Reds have a lot of pressure that Nick Lodolo and Hunter Green are the next two big names that are supposed to, they're coming up the way we're hearing about Nick Lodolo and Hunter Green, the way we heard about Cody Reed, the way we heard about Amir Garrett and Michael Lorenzen. And if the development of those two goes the same way that it did for these last three, I don't know what to tell you. And I'm getting a lot of people defending Michael Lorenzen. Michael Lorenzen, the hype around about him coming up through the system was not for him to be a glorified utility guy that we sometimes sprinkled in the outfield, that we sometimes use him in the bullpen, that we sometimes want to dream about using him as a starter again. Like if he's 5 years into this and you don't know if he's a bullpen guy or a starter, I don't know what to tell you. It's a mess. And I'm done talking about it. Let's talk about something that makes me happy. Let's talk some college football, shall we? It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash, presented by Orion Sports Medicine. Appreciate the feedback on social media. I'll continue to get to these throughout. But yeah, like I said, it's frustrating. I'm seeing the Yankees have won 90-plus games the last 3 straight seasons, made the playoffs. They want Aaron Boone gone. The Padres have an epic second-half collapse. And they fire their manager. The Reds have their first winning season since the rebuild started in 2014. I do not count the 2020 COVID season. They have their first winning season since 2014, but they won 83 games. That sounds super. They could have won 90. They could have won 95. Folks, the Reds should be a 95-win team. That didn't happen, not because the front office didn't give them a bullpen, because the front office did give them a bullpen. They won 50 games in the first half of the season with no bullpen, supposedly, and then they get a bullpen for the second half, and then they lose to all last-place teams. So the Padres fire their manager for a second-half collapse. The Reds give theirs an extension. Buckle up. Bob Castellini is Bob the Builder. He loves rebuilding, and that's all it comes down to. Can he fix it? I don't think he can. We'll be back. It's the Justin Kinner Show.
It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash, presented by Orion Sports Medicine.
COVID is spiking again, and it's just not clear how to keep your family safe. Fever is the leading symptom of COVID, and the only way to reliably detect it is with an accurate thermometer. Be vigilant and be accurate with the Exergen Temporal Scanner, whose accuracy has been proven in more than 100 clinical studies. Don't rely on non-contact thermometers. They are proven to be inaccurate and will not reliably detect a fever that might mean COVID. Learn more at Exergen.com.
Exergen is changing the way the world takes temperature.
Fall is a great time to update your home with a fresh coat of paint from Menards. We've purchased truckloads of paint to pass the savings on to you. Get a gallon of Pittsburgh Grand Distinction Interior Flat Paint and Primer in one for only $19.99 after $10 rebate and 11% off. Good through Saturday, October 9th. Savings are mail-in rebates. Some exclusions apply. See store for details.
Save big money at Menards.
What's up? This is Riley. And a little thing I love about the Chick-Fil-A Grilled Chicken Club sandwich is the applewood bacon. It's savory, and then it's also kind of sweet. And I think the combination of bacon with chicken and Colby Jack cheese, it just really knocks it out of the park.
Hey, I'm Tanea. A little thing I love about the Chick-fil-A Grilled Chicken Club sandwich is the chicken. It's so juicy. It's grilled to perfection. I'm going to devour this sandwich.
Order the Grilled Chicken Club sandwich on the Chick-fil-A app today. Real guests paid for their testimonials.
Your goals, your future, your dreams. These things are none of our business. Your credit score, your true crime obsession, and whatever you were searching for at 1:15 a.m. That's really none of our business. Because your life is private. And unlike other tech companies, we think your internet should be too. Oh, is someone there? Oh, that's none of our business either. Protect your privacy online for free with DuckDuckGo. DuckDuckGo. Privacy simplified.
Driving has a rhythm all its own. Don't wreck it with a text. Before you get behind the wheel, silence your phone. Or better yet, designate a texter. For more text-free driving tips, visit stoptextstoprex.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
I'm probably okay to have one more drink before I drive home. I'm probably okay. I open the window to stay alert. Probably okay. I just popped some gum in my mouth.
Step out of the car, please.
I probably made a mistake.
Probably okay isn't okay when it comes to drinking and driving. If you see a warning sign, stop and call a cab, a car, or a friend. Buzzed driving is drunk driving. A message brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Staples Connect is a new world of possible with innovative tools for small business and remote workers and learners. Explore what's new at your local Staples store or staplesconnect.com.
Excuse me. I know you have a 9 o'clock, so I'll keep this short. I'm the business suit in the back of your closet. You wore me nearly every day before your office went, quote, casual. I used to be the CEO of your closet. Now I'm just that one intern no one ever talks to. I always thought you'd circle back with me, get granular, keep me in the pipeline. But nada, nothing. Don't you remember the McKittrick presentation? You spilled coffee on me and I still looked amazing during the breakout talkback Q&A. So I think it's time for me to move on. I've got a great resume and I absolutely crush it in interviews, okay? Let's make this a clean break. Shift the paradigm. The only thing I ask is that you think outside the box here and do this. Take me to Goodwill, where I can really make a difference.
Your donations to Goodwill create new jobs, training programs, and education assistance for people in your community. To find your nearest donation center, go to goodwill.org. Donate stuff, create jobs. A message from Goodwill and the Ad Council.
Don't miss the ESPN Dayton Glacier Softwater High School Football Game of the Week every Friday night, right here on Dayton's ESPN Radio, 1410 Wing AM. College Football Hall of Famer Keith Byers and Justin Kinner will have the call all season long. Check out wingam.com for the complete schedule and to stream the games live.
Well, the most overblown sports story in the history of all sports stories, well, it continues today. Urban Meyer still continuing answering questions for the, well, you know, the nerve of an adult man wanting to go to a bar. I mean, holy smokes. Holy moly. I have a hard time believing that if this was any other coach, that it would be getting these kind of headlines. Now, someone brought up Jay Gruden with the Washington football team as an example of a guy that got caught doing some crazy things. Well, let's be clear. There's usually a pattern that, for one, Gruden was on that. The reason that Gruden thing was such a big story is the Washington football team, they were in the headlines a ton for, yes, because they were losing, but Gruden was on the hot seat. We all knew he was potentially, on his way out. You look at the fact that the organization had so much so much controversy behind the scenes when it came to race issues, when it came to sexual harassment, when it came to, sexual assault. I mean, there were so many things going on that's why that was such a big story. Urban Meyer is such a big story because he's just not liked. Now, you're listening, and we live in Buckeye country, and I'd say the majority of you like Urban Meyer. I don't really have a opinion one way or another, but I don't dislike him. I'm not a big Urban Meyer fan. I will say this, that if Ryan Day announced that he was heading to the NFL and Urban Meyer was announced to be coming back to Ohio State, that would be pretty happy about that. You don't have to like these guys personally for who they are. And the reason I know that is because we as human beings are able to compartmentalize who these people are as individuals and what they do for a living. I get so angry at people who try to use their moral compass to judge these athletes, but will then turn on some song that I'm not like uptight by any means, but like, and again, this stuff don't bother me, but I'm just laughing at the people that get so uptight about holding their athletes to such a high standard and their celebrities to a high standard and their favorite artists to a high standard, but then they'll flip on the music they listen to and it has every word imaginable in there. It talks, it's all the sexual stuff, everything in there. That's totally fine. But my God, if a coach goes to a bar and there's a hot blonde chick sitting close to him, we lose our minds. That's just not a good example for our young men. What do you think these NFL players are doing when they're out during the week? Like, do you think these NFL players are at Bible study holding hands, singing Kumbaya? You guys are weird. Anyone that has a problem with this is weird. I don't get it. Like, I just don't. I don't understand why we let things that people we don't know do bother us. Urban Meyer going to a bar, the nerve. If Urban Meyer went to a bar, cool. If he didn't go to a bar, super. I'm sleeping at night. I'm waking up in the morning. I have a beautiful fiance. I have an awesome family. I'm fine. Urban Meyer going to a bar, that don't bother me. Like, it just amazes me how many of you let this stuff bother you. It really does crack me up. Oh, Tim Tebow. You guys like that got mad about the Tim Tebow thing. You're embarrassing. Like the fact that I walk the streets with people like you is kind of weird. Oh, Tim Tebow. He didn't play in the NFL for 8 years. And now he just comes in off the street after failing at minor league baseball and wants to try out. He tried out and he got cut. No one gave Urban credit for making the tough decision to cut someone that's super close to him. He didn't cut Tim Tebow because of the pressure. If he cut Tim Tebow because of the pressure, he would have ended that before it started. He cut Tim Tebow because every one of you said he wasn't good enough. Urban Meyer gave him a fair shot. He tried out, wasn't good enough. They cut him, as I figured would happen. I said I could see if he maybe I could see if we saw how bad he was in preseason, and then we saw some better options, and then Urban Meyer signed him anyways. Then I would be like, okay, I could see why that bothers some people. But you folks just like to be outraged. We live in a day and age where we're just looking for things to be mad at. And the things that we get mad at really don't impact us. Like, that's what's crazy. Can one human being with a pulse call into this show and tell me how Tim Tebow trying out for the Jags impacted your life to the point to where you had to just go on these rants on social media? Can you call in and tell me how you as a human being with a pulse had your life impacted by Urban Meyer at a bar? Do you think Trevor Lawrence's life was impacted by Urban Meyer at a bar? No. But he's impacted by the media talking about him at a bar. Like, the media is the problem, not Urban Meyer. I'm not going to talk politics. But, I shouldn't say that because I'm kind of doing that thing I hate where no offense, but I'm going to say something offensive. I don't talk politics, but I'm going to talk politics a bit. Like we see the hypocrisy in politics all the time. There are a lot of people that listen to this show that love Donald Trump. Super. Don't care. That's you, whatever. There's a lot of people that listen to the show that don't like Donald Trump. There's a lot of things that Donald Trump did and said that many other presidents in the past have said, that many other humans on national television have said, and we don't react to it. But because the person we don't like says it, no, we're outraged. I can't believe it. Joe Biden can say the exact same thing that Donald Trump says, and if you're a Biden guy or gal, oh, isn't he precious? Isn't he super? Trump says it. The worst. He's racist. I hate him. Ah! Like, that's how we do. When we don't like somebody, we take their actions and their words and we let it impact us because we just don't like them. It doesn't really impact us. Their words don't impact us. Where they go doesn't impact us. Biden, Trump, yes, another presidents. That impacts us financially in the world that we live in. I get that. But like, I'm talking about like our reaction to people and things. When we don't like somebody, we get angry at the things they do and say. If we like somebody that says or does the same thing that the person we don't like does, we don't care. It doesn't bother us. If Zach Taylor would have given Tim Tebow a tryout, Bengals fans, would you have lost your mind? Would you have been angry? You might have said, why give him a shot? He sucks. And then maybe left it at that. But you guys wouldn't have gone to the basement of Loserville, where you would have come at me with the stuff that people were coming at me with of, how about the third string tight end that has worked his whole life for a shot to be a tight end for the Jaguars on the practice squad, and Tim Tebow is going to come and take that opportunity from him? At what point did we start caring about the third string tight end and the practice squad tight end? At what point? The only reason we did is because we didn't like Urban Meyer and we didn't like Tim Tebow. That's it. Because if our team would have given Tim Tebow a shot, we would have been like, yeah, I think he sucks, but oh well, let's go out. I mean, let's talk about a quarterback, Joe Burrow. Let's talk about Baker Mayfield. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about. That's why I am so annoyed with this. I saw someone on social media ask me last night, why am I so angry about this? It's just, I'm so sick of society just getting so, like, get the pitch. I don't even think we put pitchforks away. I think everyone just walks around with them and is just looking for reasons to point them at people. I'm not condoning a man going to a bar and flirting and touching other women while being married and all that stuff. I'm not condoning that, but I don't care about that because I don't know Urban Meyer. He's not my dad. He's not my uncle. He's not my family. Hell, he's not even the coach of the team I like anymore. Who cares? But I hear so many people, and again, it's not just ESPN, it's all media guys. They're so pompous and arrogant, and oh, we're so holier than thou. My God, take a camera and follow media people around. See what they do. And then listen to them pop the mic every day and start telling people, you shouldn't do that. You should not be at a bar. You should have traveled with your team. You know how many, people are like, what I can't get over is just the fact that Urban Meyer didn't travel with the team. Who cares? How does that bother you? Does Urban Meyer not traveling back with the team? Do you think that Trevor Lawrence stayed up angry all night? Like, I can't believe Urban didn't come with us. I can't believe Urban didn't come with us. I can't believe Trevor Lawrence is 21 years old, a millionaire, living his best life. If Trevor Lawrence let Urban Meyer staying in Columbus bother him, he's a miserable human being then. Urban Meyer staying behind in Columbus, how did that impact any of us? It didn't. It didn't. I'm ranting and raving and screaming a lot today, and I'm about done with it. But I just saw that Urban Meyer addressed the media today. I had at least a 3 or 4 hour conversation with Shad Khan, says Urban Meyer. The message is loud and clear, and I agree with it. I also met with the team on Monday individually and then today as a group. Had a very pointed conversation with them, owning a stupid mistake that I made. A job of a coach is, number one, health and safety of a player. Number two is to motivate them or bring out the greatness in them. And number three is give them everything possible to be successful and give them a great locker room and then get the heck out of the way. Urban, stop admitting. This is the other thing too, in this cancel culture that we live in this pitchfork society that we live in, where we're just constantly looking to point the damn thing at people and call them out and make their lives miserable. We apologize for stuff that we're probably not sorry about. Do you think Urban Meyer regrets going to the bar because it turned into the storyline? But do you think Urban Meyer is feeling bad that he went to a bar? He feels bad that the story turned into what it did, but I feel bad for Urban that the story turned into what it did because it only turned into what it did because it's Urban Meyer. I hear a lot of people say, well, I believe if any coach did this. Really? Name any other coach. Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick's like 95 years old, so whatever. But Bill Belichick has status. Urban Meyer has status. Not every coach has status. Zach Taylor hasn't hit puberty yet. Kevin Stefanski outside of Browns country, nobody knows who Kevin Stefanski really is. If a video of Kevin Stefanski at a bar with some hot blonde chick grinding upon him was released, would you care? Would I talk about it? No, because it's nothing. Oh, you're talking about Urban Meyer now, so clearly it means something. Yes, I'm talking about the reaction. I'm ripping the reaction to it. I'm not ripping his actions. I'm embarrassed for the people who are mad about it. We make up these unwritten rules in our head, and we try to hold people to a standard that we don't even hold ourselves to. Urban going to a bar. He lives in Columbus. I can't believe he didn't fly back. It wasn't like it was unusual. It's not like they were in Las Vegas, and Urban's like, you know what? I want to hit the slots. Why don't you guys just go? I'll catch up with you later. No, he's in freaking Ohio. In Cincinnati. He wanted to get the hell out of Cincinnati. He wanted to get to Columbus. He got back to Columbus where he owns that bar. His family is there. And then this is the other thing that people are doing that are driving me nuts. Like, stop being stupid here, folks. Like, seriously, you got to stop, because here's the thing. Urban said he was going to spend time with his grandchildren. Did it look like he was spending time with his grandchildren? As if Urban didn't go to his kid's house, read his grandkids a story, get them all tucked in and warm for bed, kiss them on the forehead, and say, Herb's out. Grandpa loves you, I'm out. So the kids are asleep. Urban's supposed to just go handcuff himself to the door and just wait till sunrise. What are you talking? He was at a bar late at night. Kids are in bed. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. I told my bosses I'm going to Los Angeles for the weekend to spend time with family. And I go to Los Angeles. I went to a Dodger game. Imagine if I came back and my bosses were like, hold on, kidder. You said you were going to spend time with family. All I saw was that you spent Sunday at Dodger Stadium. That doesn't look like you were spending time with family. Huh? You see how stupid that sounds? And if you don't think it sounds stupid, you're trying too hard. I don't know what to tell you. Like, this is dumb. Urban Meyer, I can't believe I can't believe that he said he was spending time with his grandchildren. Clearly, he wasn't spending time with it. He did spend time with his grandchildren. They were in bed. They went to sleep. He saw them. He spent time with them. These are human beings. I don't get it, man. I don't get it. I don't get it. I'm done. I'm done talking about it. But it's like, just seeing this reaction is just unreal. Trevor Lawrence was asked about whether, his thoughts on how Urban addressed his team. Trevor Lawrence was asked about his thoughts on how Urban handled the situation internally. Trevor Lawrence says, I know a lot of the guys respected it, how he addressed it this morning. Obviously, it's not an easy situation, and you don't want to be in this situation, but I think he's done right by us. And it was a good meeting this morning, just up front with us, apologized. Apologize for what? Because here's what I got to ask, folks. Why do the players need to be like, if he wants to apologize to the players because it became a distraction, that's fine. But the players knew he was staying back. The players knew he wasn't getting on the plane and going with them. Would Urban have apologized when he got back to Jacksonville had this not gone viral? No, he wouldn't have. You know why? Because the players, they didn't care. The players didn't care. Oh, where's Coach? Oh, he's staying behind with family. Yep, family's awesome. Cool, Coach. We're heading back to Jacksonville. We're all 20 to 30 years old. We're millionaires. We have an off day of practice. We're gonna go hang out with hot blonde chicks in the bar too. Like, what the hell, man? This story is dumb. And everyone out there that's blaming Urban Meyer, the poor guy, everything he does is just being blown up way out of proportion. I don't know what else to say about it, but it's annoying. And part of me was hoping he would get fired because I want him back in college. I want him at USC. I want USC to be like a big brand again. I technically really want him back at Ohio State. That's no slight at Ryan Day. I think Ryan Day's killing it. But if Ryan Day ever did leave and Urban came back to Ohio State, I would love it. That would be huge. That would be humongous. But Urban Meyer in college, he's good for college. It's good to have a team. It's good to have another team in the mix, a powerhouse. Right now you have Ohio State, you have Alabama, Clemson. Clemson's having a down year, whatever. But college needs more of that. They need the USCs of the world. They need the Notre Dames. Notre Dame's running the playoff, and they're always highly ranked. But they're not recruiting at the level of these other schools. They're not doing what these other schools are doing. Urban Meyer at Notre Dame would be huge. Urban Meyer at USC. We've been saying those same schools for a while. Texas would have been fantastic, especially with them transitioning into the SEC. Man, it's not. He will fail with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Nick Saban failed in the NFL, and I think he's doing pretty good for himself right now. I think the best thing that could happen for Urban, count your losses. Realize it's not working. Get out while you can. We'll be back. It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash, presented by Orion Sports Medicine and OGW Energy Resources.
Listen, stream, watch. It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash, right here on Dayton's ESPN Radio, 1410 Wing AM.
A deeper connection with water can change your life, and that's what the home's first smart water network does. It turns your everyday routine into a customized experience.
Mowing. Fill the baby's bottle.
And it can stop a catastrophic leak with a simple water designs our life. Who designs for water?
The water.
Moen.
Fall in love with easy savings at JCPenney's Friends and Family Sale. Make yourself cozy with up to 50% off savings across the store. Plus, take an extra 30% off with coupon now through Sunday. Bundle up with new men's and women's outerwear styles. Or warm up the family in Exertion Activewear. Plus, give your home a refresh for less. New fall styles, great fall savings. JCPenney. Offers and coupons valid through 10/10. Some exclusions apply. See store or jcp.com for details.
Oh, yeah.
When getting the job done right is job one, you need construction equipment that's built right. From compact track loaders to the world's #1 selling compact excavator, the Kubota construction lineup features durable Kubota engines, more comfort, and the versatility to do it all and do it right. Visit your local Kubota dealer today. Go to KubotaUSA.com for full disclaimer.
See Columbus Equipment Company, 7570 New Carlisle Pike in Dayton.
Listen to this station anytime, anywhere on Odyssey. Odyssey is your new audio home for all the music, news, sports, and podcasts that matter to you. Odyssey. That's AUDACY.
If you've got a small business, you know there's nothing more valuable than your time. So why waste it at the post office? Stamps.com makes it easy to mail and ship right from your computer. No special equipment required. Whether you're an office sending invoices, a side hustle Etsy shop, or a full-blown warehouse shipping out orders, Stamps.com will make your life easier. You'll even get exclusive discounts on postage and shipping from USPS and UPS. And their new Rate Advisor tool lets you compare shipping rates across carriers so you always find the best option. Save time and money with Stamps.com. There's no risk, and when you go to Stamps.com and use offer code FOCUS, you'll receive a 4-week free trial, plus free postage and a digital scale. No long-term commitments or contracts. Just go to Stamps.com. Click on the microphone at the top and enter code FOCUS. That's Stamps.com, promo code FOCUS. Stamps.com. Never go to the post office again.
Sip and save at Circle K. Enjoy one coffee or fountain drink every day for only $5.99 a month. Sign up in store.
You want more local content from Dayton's ESPN radio station 1410 Wing AM? Make sure you subscribe to the WING 1410 Dayton YouTube channel, where you can watch all your local shows live or go back and rewatch previous episodes of the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash, the Keith Byers Show, Talking Out Loud with Sully, and more. WING 1410 Dayton. Dayton's ESPN Radio. We're live. We're local.
What are you gonna miss? He struck him out.
We're Dayton's ESPN radio station. Now, let's send it to the WING studios for Dayton's only local sports talk show. It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash, presented by Orion Sports Medicine.
All right, we welcome you back. Justin Kinner with you here on a Wednesday. It's the Justin Kinner Show, presented by Orion Sports Medicine and OGW Energy Resources. We're live on Facebook. Head to Facebook, search the Justin Kinner Show. We appreciate everybody who watches the show weekdays from 3 to 6 on our Facebook page, as well as on our YouTube channel. Always many different ways you could take in the show. So Ron Howard on Facebook says, Urban Meyer won't make it 3 years. He's not prepared to deal with grown men, not boys. NFL is a different ballgame. Actually, Ron, I disagree. Like the Jaguars front office, they play a huge role in Urban's inability to be able to hit the ground running. And for instance, like I still think any franchise that brings in a rookie head coach to lead a rookie quarterback, I have a problem with that. You can have an experienced staff and all that type of thing. I get it, but you want a head coach who is learning the NFL game to lead a rookie quarterback who's also learning the NFL game. Like, I just think it was dumb to hire Urban Meyer to lead that. Now, Urban Meyer took the Jags job because it's like, man, I get Trevor Lawrence, I get a rookie quarterback, a stud of a rookie quarterback. Like that's a great gig to take. But I also think Urban thought he was going to have more stars on this team. I mean, this is a Jaguars team that had $70 million in payroll, and they still have a last place roster. Like, I don't understand that. I don't understand that. I think more money should have been put into, like, I ripped the Bengals, yes, but like, can't argue that Joe Burrow didn't benefit from having weapons last year. I know that O-line was trash, but Joe Burrow was able to kind of slowly show you what he's capable of last year. He had quite a few games of 300 plus yards, and he did that while being the third most hit quarterback in the NFL, and he didn't even play the last 2 months of the season. But he was able to get all of that yardage with Tyler Boyd and only in a rookie T. Higgins and Joe Mixon, who was out most of the season. But don't tell me he didn't benefit from having those weapons around him. He did. Who does Trevor Lawrence have? Nobody. Now you're probably thinking in your head, you're naming Robinson, you're naming, so stop. Nobody. He has no, the offensive line's trash. The running back, I mean, they went out and they got Hyde, of course, and he's just that was a legacy signing. No one gave Urban crap for signing him, by the way. He signed him. They drafted ETN. ETN's out. And how much better would they be with ETN? Maybe one more additional weapon to throw to, but at the end of the day, like, the offense just doesn't look in sync. The bottom line is the Jags set Urban up to fail. The media is setting Urban up to fail. Now, you're saying Urban should be responsible for his own actions. I get that, but Urban Meyer really isn't doing a whole lot of things that all other head coaches aren't doing. It's just the media doesn't care. The media doesn't care if John Harbaugh goes to a bar. The media doesn't care about that. The media doesn't care if Andy Reid goes to a restaurant with his family. No one cares. Like, give me a break, folks. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. People only care because it's Urban Meyer. He's a polarizing, unlikable guy outside of Buckeye country and obviously Gator country. So there you go. But as far as, the NFL is a different ballgame, the Jacksonville Jaguars played hard for him on Thursday night. Like, if you wanted to add the narrative of this team's quit on him, and I know that, and by the way, I forgot the name of the reporter that was bringing up the bull crap about, there's a player internally that said that the whole team was mocking him and that they don't respect him and that he has no respect around there. You know how many reports refute that dispute that say otherwise? Did that look like a team on Thursday night that quit on Urban Meyer? That looked like a team that came out and tried to punch Cincinnati in the mouth on the road in primetime, and they gave it everything that they had. The Bengals needed 4 quarters to beat the Jacksonville Jaguars, and the Jacksonville Jaguars forced the Bengals, a better team, to fight to the very end. Like, don't tell me that the players aren't fighting for playing for Urban Meyer. Now, the spotlight's going to be even more on that moving forward. I don't even know who do the Jaguars have this week. Let me pull that up. When you look at who the Jaguars have on their schedule, and you look coming out, I think people are going to be looking at results of games and putting that on Urban. I don't know. There's going to be, like, the Jags won't be favored in any game this season. They got the Titans coming up. Then they got the Dolphins. Then they're at the Seahawks. Then they got the Bills. They might have a chance against the Titans defense to put some points up, make it interesting, okay? The Dolphins, they might have a chance, but the Dolphins defense is pretty solid as well. The Seahawks, they're not winning on the road at Seattle. The Bills will annihilate them. The Colts, they looked better. I mean, that's a decent roster, but it's at the Colts. Then they got the Niners, the Falcons, the Rams, the Titans again. I mean, they may not be favored to win a game until the Texans, and that's if Trevor Lawrence is still healthy and playing, and that's if Urban Meyer's still coaching by the time we get to December 19th. They got the Jets. I mean, the Jags may not win a game. They won 1 game last year. I ripped the Bengals for winning 6 games in 2 years. The Jags might only win 1 game in 2. That's Cleveland Browns level embarrassing. That's bad stuff. The Browns won 1 or 2 games the year before. They went 0-16, and I mean that was embarrassing. You know how bad you have to be to get to that. The Bengals have been horrible the last 2 years. They still won at least 6 games. The Jags have their work cut out for them, and it's not all on Urban Meyer. There's not a coach out there that would get more out of this team. This team's not good. The roster's not good, and they have no one to blame but themselves. They had $70 million in cap space. They did nothing with it. The struggles of the team should not be put on Urban Meyer. If they want to nitpick all the distraction stuff, he keeps falling into these traps, and the media is taking small things and blowing him up into these distractions. Like, I get that you don't want to be a distraction, but what the hell is Urban supposed to do? He can't move. He can't blink. He can't sneeze. He can't cough without the media taking it and running with it. Things that they wouldn't take and run with other coaches. Just saying. I mean, it's strange to me. Urban is trying to do his best to not be a distraction, but everything he does, people run with it and make it a bigger deal than what it is. But I'm done talking about it. I want to talk some college football. I'm Justin Kinner. It's the Justin Kinner Show presented by Orion Sports Medicine and OGW Energy Resources. I appreciate our sponsors. Love OGW Energy Resources. They're a new sponsor of the show that just jumped on last month. We've had a long-lasting relationship with Orion Sports Medicine. Dr. Phil's awesome, so shout out to our sponsors. Appreciate them. We always love adding new sponsors to that as well. So college football rankings came out the other day, and couple things surprised me. For one, like I keep doing this thing where I'm tracking, like as the season goes on, how many realistic teams actually have a shot at the college football playoff. Now that could change. There are teams right now that I have ruled out that could be brought back in if enough teams that are in contention lose, because like it's going to fluctuate. Just because I say a team's not eligible or that I don't believe they're in the playoff hunt now doesn't mean that in 2 or 3 weeks from now that they won't be. For instance, right now, the Pac-12 has 0 teams eligible for the college football playoff. All the top teams have multiple losses. The Pac-12, another year of no representation in the college football playoff. And that's why I get so mad that the Pac-12 is so vocal in their dislike of the 4-team college football playoff, because it's your fault. If the Pac-12 did their part, multiple SEC teams wouldn't get in. If the Pac-12 had an Alabama or an Ohio State or a Clemson, we wouldn't have this problem. Like it's the Pac-12's fault. Like they need, I wish the anger and the frustration that they direct towards the playoff, they should direct towards their own teams for not doing their part. The college football playoff has not left undefeated Pac-12 teams out of the playoff. Half the time they haven't left one-loss Pac-12 big programs out of the playoff. USC loses multiple games a year. Oregon loses multiple games a year. Or Oregon loses to teams that they shouldn't lose to. Like the Pac-12, they have self-inflicted wounds. That's all on them, not the playoff. So the Pac-12 is out of it already. No surprise there. All right. The Big 12 has Oklahoma. I think they're going to stumble along the way, but they don't look as strong as what some of the other contenders do. Oklahoma still in the mix. They're 5-0 on the season. They stayed at number 6. Okay. And I think they're going to say, I don't think you'll see Oklahoma move up at all. There's not a game on their schedule moving forward that'll justify moving them up. They're going to stay at number 6 in this AP poll. Again, the college football playoff poll that comes out at the end of October, that's going to be the one that matters. But, the Big 12 has one team, and I doubt that Oklahoma finishes the year undefeated. I doubt that they get in. So that'll be no Pac-12, no Big 12. The ACC, all their top teams have multiple losses. So you're going to have no Pac-12, you're going to have no Big 12, and no ACC. I could definitively say there's no Pac-12 and no ACC. I am assuming that there won't be a Big 12 representative this year. I don't think Oklahoma is interesting because of their quarterback and Spencer Rattler, and because they have Lincoln Riley as a head coach, and because of the headline of them jumping ship to the SEC. Outside of that, they're interesting because of those factors, but they're not. I don't think they're elite. I don't think they're one of the top 4 teams in the country this year. So I'm going to eliminate the Pac-12 from the playoff contention. I'm going to eliminate the ACC from a playoff contention, and I'm going to eliminate the Big 12. And that leaves the Big 10 and the SEC. Notre Dame just lost. They're out. Like they already have a loss. Like Notre Dame creates their own problems. Notre Dame has made the playoffs on a few occasions already. The first time as an independent, everyone thought, including me, that they shouldn't make it because they don't play a conference championship game, and their undefeated record, was being rewarded because it's Notre Dame, but their strength of schedule that year was straight garbage. Like their schedule was horrible when they made the playoff the first time back in 2019. And then they made the playoff last year in the conference. They still didn't win a conference championship, but they were in the conference championship game. They did beat Clemson earlier in the season. But like Notre Dame, it really comes down to not playing in a conference, by not playing on conference championship weekend. Their margin for error is so slim that the only way to make it is by going undefeated. They've shot themselves in the foot. So no Pac-12, no ACC, no Big 12, no Notre Dame. Cincinnati, the Bearcats. Now the Bearcats came in at number 5 on the latest AP poll. In fact, the Bearcats came in at number 6 in the AP in the coaches poll. But when you look at those 4 playoff spots, you'd have to assume that if Alabama and Georgia win out, and Georgia's only loss is a close one to Alabama in the SEC title game, or Alabama loses to Georgia in a close one in the SEC title game, Alabama and Georgia are in. That's 1 and 2. Now the Big 10 is really honestly coming down to like Ohio State and Penn State will knock one another out. They'll knock each other out. one of the winner of the Ohio State-Penn State game coming up here in a few weeks. That's a playoff game. The winner of that game really goes on to the playoffs, in my opinion. So there's that. So you have Bama, okay? You have Georgia, and then you have OSU or PSU for PSU. I'm sorry. I'm writing as I'm talking, so I'm literally saying what I'm writing. So my apologies. But you have either Ohio State or Penn State or Iowa or both. Iowa's good, folks. Like Iowa's they're number 3 in the country right now. They will be in the first college football playoff poll either with Ohio State or without Ohio State. Iowa, as long as they're undefeated, when we head into that first college football playoff poll, I guarantee Iowa's in. In fact, my prediction of what the first college football playoff poll will look like, it'll be Alabama 1, it'll be Georgia 2. By that point, Ohio State would have had a chance to beat Penn State, or Penn State would have beat Ohio State. But let's say Penn State beats Ohio State, or Ohio State beats Penn State. It'll be Alabama 1, Georgia 2, Ohio State or Penn State will be 3, and Iowa will be 4. Even if Oklahoma is still undefeated at that point, I still think that you will have a one-loss team ahead of an undefeated Oklahoma. Cincinnati's interesting. Cincinnati is really rooting for Penn State. Cincinnati has to root for Penn State to eliminate, of course, Ohio State out of contention completely. Then they got at that point hope that Penn State routs Iowa in the Big Ten title game, or that Iowa routs Penn State in the Big Ten title game. And at that point, if Oklahoma has a loss, your playoff could be, and will most likely be, in my opinion, Alabama 1, Georgia 2, Iowa, Penn State, or Ohio State at 3, and Cincinnati 4. Now, if Oklahoma is undefeated, I think the Bearcats get screwed. That's the problem I have with this, is I think that the Bearcats are better than Oklahoma. I think that there's so many different moving parts to this. I think it's interesting when you pay attention to the playoff picture, but I really do. I think that when that playoff poll comes out here at the end of October, it's going to be Bama 1, Georgia 2, and then at 3, it's either going to be Ohio State or Penn State. Whoever wins that Ohio State-Penn State game will get that 3rd spot. And then Iowa, if they're undefeated, will be number 4. Cincinnati and Oklahoma will be 5 and 6. Now, the reason that that's interesting is because, let's say Penn State, even with beating Auburn and beating Ohio State, Penn State probably, I don't know, I don't get the same vibe about the Big Ten. The Big Ten is killing it this year, by the way. Michigan State, Michigan, Iowa. You look at Ohio State, you look at Penn State. I mean, there's so many teams doing their part. This is what the Big Ten should be doing every year. And that's without your typical Wisconsin team in the mix, right? Like Wisconsin is down. Like that's what's unfortunate about that. Like the Big Ten is very strong this year. But I don't know what the perception of the Big Ten is for if Penn State, who's already beat Auburn at home in that game a few weeks ago, if they turn around and lose a close one to Ohio State, are they necessarily out of it? I think that Penn State, like the Big Ten, has a good shot to get 2 teams in this year. But man, this is going to be fun. Like this college football playoff race to the finish line this year will be the most entertaining one of them all, because in years past, here's what has happened in years past. We knew Bama's in, we knew Clemson's in, we assumed Georgia would be in, and we're hoping that Ohio State battles it out with Oklahoma and Notre Dame for that 4th spot. And like that's what it's really come down to. But I can't remember a time where more than one spot in the playoff was up for grabs. And I think that technically, there's 3 spots really up for grabs right now. I think Alabama's a lock, but we'll see. All right, we'll step away for a few moments. It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash, presented by Orion Sports Medicine and OGW Energy Resources. 518-1410. What do you think? Again, we're a few weeks out from that very first college football playoff poll being revealed, but the Bearcats, I think, have a shot. The Bearcats are just going to need help. But this might be the first time that we ever see a college football playoff that has 2 conferences being represented by 4 teams. I think you could honestly, realistically see Alabama, Georgia, and Ohio State and Iowa. They're going to be mirroring situations. Alabama and Georgia will face each other in the SEC title game. Georgia loses a close one to Alabama. Because they lose close, boom, teams 1 and 2. Ohio State and Iowa, top 6 teams by the time they play in the Big Ten title game. Super. Ohio State beats Iowa in a close one. Iowa loses a close one. 2 teams from the Big Ten get in. Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, Iowa, or Penn State, Iowa. That's really what it's coming down to. 518-1410, or head to the Facebook page. Search the Justin Kinner Show Facebook page. Watch the live video feed there, and let me know who you think your 4 playoff teams are going to be, and what do you think about the Bearcats' chances. We'll be back in just a moment.
It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash, presented by Orion Sports Medicine. ESPN 1410 Wing AM weather.
This afternoon will be mostly cloudy with a chance of showers and thunderstorms, a high near 80. Tonight will be cloudy with showers and thunderstorms, a low near 65. And tomorrow will be cloudy with showers, a high around 76. I'm Pete Spivak for 1410 ESPN Radio.
Weather is brought to you by Cullet Propane, making buying propane easy since 1952, offering budget billing and pre-buy options. Find out more at culletpropane.com.
You love Zoom for video meetings? Now, choose Zoom to power your phone communications too. Zoom Phone works seamlessly within the Zoom app as your business phone system. Zoom Phone's secure HD audio and enterprise-grade reliability keep you connected to your teams and your customers. And it's easy to use on mobile, desktop, or desk phone. Empower your workforce with Zoom Phone. Zoom, how the world connects.
With autumn's arrival, ISA-certified arborists recommend that fallen leaves be left alone or mulched to improve plant health. When leaves decay, they transform into organic matter absorbed by the soil to become moisture to trees through their roots, which helps trees weather drought conditions. Leaves are also a natural habitat for butterflies, chipmunks, earthworms, and others, which increases the population of beneficial insects for the next growing season. To learn more about the benefits of autumn leaves, contact an ISA-certified arborist near you by going to trees4ohio.org. That's trees4ohio.org.
If you are push mowing your yard using an inefficient lawn tractor, or your current zero-turn spends more time in the shop than mowing your grass, it's time you look at the Hustler Zero-Turn Lawnmower. Residential mowers from Hustler are built like tanks and drive like sports cars. All Hustler mowers have fabricated welded steel decks. Don't settle on cheap units with flimsy stamped decks from big box stores. See Small Engine Service Pros, and we'll guide you to the right mower for your property and your budget. 2030 North Dayton Lakeview Road, Route 235 in New Carlisle. Are you involved with a school or charitable fundraiser that holds an auction, bid and buy booth, or a raffle to raise money? Many of the most popular items at auctions or booths are autographed sports memorabilia items. How can you get great items in your event? Call Adam Walter at Sports Investments. Sports Investments has a consignment program for fundraisers that has provided outstanding items. You select items that are proven sellers, including autographed pieces from Tiger Woods, LeBron James, Joey Votto, the Big Red Machine, the Bengals, the Browns, UC, XU, UK, NKU, Dayton, Louisville, Notre Dame, and Ohio State. Sports Investments consigns the items to your group at a highly discounted price. And when they sell, you keep the profit. You don't pay anything in advance. And if something doesn't sell, you simply return it. You'll enjoy the experience of dealing with the Walter family. Call them at 513-891-5000. Email Adam at sportsinvestments.com or visit them on Montgomery Road, right off I-275, just 40 minutes from WING.
Hello, I'm Clerk of Court Rob Scott, serving Kettering, Centerville, Moraine, and Washington Township. From October 18th to October 29th, you can come to Kettering Municipal Court and pay off half your fines and costs, and the other half will be waived. There is nothing to fear. Come pay off half your fee.
This is brought to you by Rob Scott, Clerk of Court.
Don't miss the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash, presented by Orion Sports Medicine. Weekdays from 3 to 6 p.m. right here on Dayton's ESPN Radio, 1410 Wing AM.
All right, we are back. I'm Justin Kinner, hanging out with you here on a Wednesday, 518-1410. That's the number to call in and jump in on the conversation. So Leonard Skinner will be at Riverbend this coming up Saturday night, and then for you country music fans, Dierks Bentley will be at Riverbend on Friday night, and we're giving away tickets to both shows on tomorrow's show. So be tuning in tomorrow, starting at 3 o'clock for the Justin Kinner Show. We'll be giving away Leonard Skinner tickets again to Riverbend in Cincinnati Cincinnati, as well as Dirks Bentley on Friday night. So tune in to tomorrow evening show, the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash, presented by Orion Sports Medicine and OGW Energy Resources. Leonard Skinner tickets. Again, Leonard Skinner will be performing at Riverbend on Saturday night, and then Dirks Bentley Friday night. So those tickets we will have ready to give away for you on tomorrow's show. Talking college football just college football in general, but it all comes down to the playoffs. And again, to me, this is why at the end of the day that we want expansion. I think the only way that expansion is good for the viewers is for one day a year, or actually maybe 2 or 3 days a year on the days of the actual playoff games and the championship game. But the 14 play, sure, there are less playoff games when we get to the tail end of the year, but less playoff games means more meaningful games in the regular season. Cincinnati and Notre Dame, everyone's like, well, we only get 2 playoff games in a national championship game at the end of the year in a 4-team format. That's not true. We just watched Auburn and Penn State a few weeks ago, playoff game. Auburn got eliminated. Notre Dame and Cincinnati just played each other this past weekend, and what an amazing atmosphere that was. And how about Cincinnati? I mean, it looked like freaking Christmas over there in South Bend. I mean, it was so freaking neat watching that game and seeing all of the red sprinkled throughout that stadium. It was all red and green. It was just, it looked like a damn Christmas tree there, right? Like, it was so cool. That was a playoff game. Congratulations to the Bearcats who advanced to the next part of this format, which is keep winning. Stay undefeated, which sounds hard, but it's not, because if you want me to believe that you are actually a top 4 team in the country, beating the rest of the teams in your schedule shouldn't be that difficult. So there you go. But yeah, it's a playoff. Ohio State, Oregon, that was a playoff game. Technically, no one got eliminated. Ohio State was not eliminated, but basically they had 2 lives to live, and they ended up, basically they ended up shooting themselves in the foot. So that's kind of really where we're at right now as far as that's concerned. But 518-1410, your thoughts on this current, ranking system that's out right now. Bama 1, Georgia 2, Iowa and Penn State at 3 and 4. The Bearcats move up 2 spots to 5 with Oklahoma and Ohio State at 6 and 7. Oregon drops back after their loss. They're 4-1 on the season. They're at number 8. They drop back 5. Michigan, they just continue climbing. They're 5-0 on the season. They're sitting at number 9. And how about BYU? Michigan State. BYU is at 10. Michigan State, Oklahoma State, Arkansas, Notre Dame round out your 11, 12, 13, and 14 with Coastal Carolina coming in at 15. So there you go. But, this is going to be an interesting race to the finish line. 518-1410. Let's go to David. David, how are you, sir? Welcome on.
Good. Thanks, Justin. I appreciate it. A long time, first time. As a displaced Browns fan, I appreciate the discussion we have around the Browns once in a while. I just wanted to reset the conversation on this. I think it's an interesting topic, but remind you that Penn State and Iowa play this weekend. Mm-hmm. And so I guess the question would be whether that's an elimination game. If you look ahead to Iowa's schedule for the rest of the year, this is the only game they possibly could lose. I think they have all the dregs of the West after this game. So I guess the question I have as we start this conversation is that an elimination game, Penn State, Iowa this weekend?
Very interesting question at that. I think that if you ask me which team could afford the loss more, I think that Penn State could afford the loss more for this very reason. They can afford the loss more because they've already beaten a huge non-conference opponent in Auburn just a few weeks ago. So if they lose, and again, how you lose matters. If they lose a close one to Iowa, but then Penn State turns around and beats Ohio State here in a few weeks, they could still get to the Big Ten championship game and win it. I think Penn State could afford the loss. Iowa, I mean, they beat Indiana in week 1. They don't really have, their resume is not as sexy. They look really good, but their resume is not as forgiving. So if they lose to Penn State, they don't have any games of significance. I mean, they have Northwestern, they have Minnesota, who lost to a MAC team. You have Illinois and Nebraska. That's not a good schedule the rest of the way. I think that unfortunately, if Iowa loses, I think that they're done. I don't think they can make the playoff. I think if Penn State loses a close one to Iowa, they could still beat Ohio State. They could still win the Big Ten championship game with that Auburn win on their resume and still get in. So yes, I think it's an elimination game for Iowa more than Penn State, David.
Yeah, I think I think it ends up playing into Ohio State's hands because, if Iowa wins, I think they're going to win out, and I think you've got, then their next game is against the winner of the East. But I think the more realistic thing is Penn State wins, And I don't see Penn State going undefeated on the eastern side the rest of the way through. I just don't think they've got enough offense to do that. So, but I just leave it with that, let people discuss around that. But I think that's going to sort of change that landscape. That's going to make a big difference for everybody behind them who wins that game this Saturday. So appreciate it. Thanks for all you do.
Hey, David, thank you. And I appreciate that you called after all this time listening. Thank you so much. And go Browns.
Thank you. All right, bye.
All right, 518-1410. That's another great point, too, about, we're talking about these playoff games. I mean, I know it's a 4-team playoff, but these are all playoff games. Cincinnati, they never make the playoff. They just played in the playoff game. They just beat Notre Dame on the road at South Bend. They just won a playoff game. Now they've advanced to the next stage of this format. Is it win and advance to the next playoff game? No, it's all part of the format itself. It's all under that 4-team umbrella. But again, Bearcats fans are even more locked in now than ever. And they beat Notre Dame. Now they have a chance to make the playoffs. They just won a playoff game. You're still alive. By beating Notre Dame, the Bearcats' playoff chances, they are alive. Penn State, Iowa this weekend. That's a playoff game. Penn State could technically lose in a close one to Iowa this coming up weekend. Okay? They're at Iowa. If Penn State, and Iowa's number 3 in the country, if Penn State loses at Iowa by a field goal or a touchdown, and then they turn around and they beat Ohio State coming up on the 30th, and then they go on to win a Big Ten championship, Penn State's fine. They're still in. Especially, the reason I say they're still in is because they're still in mainly because of the fact that there is no ACC representative. There is no Pac-12 representative. I'll be very surprised if the Big 12 has a representative. I don't think Oklahoma is going to be standing when it's all said and done. I think Penn State's okay. So Penn State will not be eliminated with the loss on Saturday. Iowa will. Iowa does not have, they don't have any significant win on their resume right now. Like at the time they beat number 18 Indiana, and we've seen how dreadful Indiana is since then. Indiana's not good. That was not a good Indiana. I mean, I thought Indiana was going to be good. I was all about Indiana to start the season. Iowa, they've beat Indiana. Okay, they beat Indiana. They beat Iowa State. Iowa State, not good. They beat Kent State 30-7. All right, they beat Colorado State. They beat Maryland. Okay. Now they have Penn State coming up. If Iowa beats Penn State and then Iowa goes on to the Big Ten title game and loses a close one, I'm not convinced that they're necessarily eliminated. But Iowa, if they lose to Penn State this coming up weekend, here's what they have after, folks. Iowa, with the loss to with the loss to Penn State this Saturday, they don't have any games from the past to soften the blow. They don't have an Oregon game. They don't have that Notre Dame game that Cincinnati just had. They don't have any of those. Penn State had the Auburn game. They don't have that. They don't have that win on their resume. Their non-conference was horrible. They don't play anyone really in conference outside of Penn State. So if they lose to Penn State on Saturday, here's what they have coming up. They're non-ranked Purdue, non-ranked Wisconsin, non-ranked Northwestern, non-ranked, just lost to a MAC school, Minnesota. Losing, they'll play Illinois and they'll play Nebraska. Now they'll beat all those teams and they'll throttle them. And that's what good teams do. They beat bad teams. Then they'll get to the Big Ten championship game. And let's say that they do beat Ohio State, then they're in. If Iowa wins the Big Ten championship, even with one loss, I think that they're in. I just don't know. It's going to be interesting how all that pans out. But, I think that this game is huge this coming up weekend, and I'm really excited about that. But 518-1410, let's go to James. James, how are you? Welcome.
Doing great, my friend. How are you doing, Justin?
Good. Thanks for calling. What do you got for us?
I'm going to make a response to 3 comments you made. The first is I totally agree with you. About time that we have the possibility of putting 2 teams in the playoffs. Like, we are the Big Ten, right? We are the Big Ten, and we are satisfied with 1. Many times we've had 0. And now we have a chance, and you laid out the scenarios perfectly. You're exactly right. The way you laid them out with the Penn State-Iowa game, there's a great chance with Penn State losing at Iowa that we could put 2 teams in the playoffs, and hallelujah, we finally are there versus, the SEC, ACC, et cetera.
Yeah, I think that the Big Ten, I think that when you think about the SEC, they root for Alabama to win and they root for Georgia to win because more teams under their conference umbrella in the playoffs is more money for them. So that's a good thing. But like, that's why they root for that scenario. The Big Ten is rooting for Iowa on Saturday night. They don't want Penn State to eliminate Iowa because then by having a non-playoff threat weapon or team in the Big Ten championship game, it lessens the win for the other side. So if Iowa is undefeated in the Big Ten title game and they can make the playoff against Ohio State or Penn State in the Big Ten title game to make the playoff, now all of a sudden we're cooking with fire here. So I think the Big Ten's pulling for Iowa this weekend.
Absolutely. All right. Second thing about Cincinnati. You know what the best thing about last weekend is that, could you imagine, like, I don't know, like a late season game, snow, Saturday night, an injury to Notre Dame, and Cincinnati won? People would be like, oh, that's not legit. No, they went in the South Bend with great weather, with everyone healthy, and they crushed them. There would be nothing better for this region and to see Luke Fickell take Cincinnati to the playoffs.
Yeah, and you know what would be cool? And it can't happen now because Ohio State, there's no path to Ohio State getting to that number 1 spot. But, man, can you imagine if they paired somehow Cincinnati and Ohio? Like, so if Cincinnati makes the playoff, they're a 4. There's no way around. Actually, you know what? I lied. Hold on. So
could be a 3.
They could be a 3. If the committee really wanted to have an interesting matchup in the playoff, they could technically, like, let's say Ohio State, they win out, including beating Penn State, beating Michigan, which really they should. They're the most talented team in the Big Ten. They should. So let's say Ohio State wins the Big Ten title game. Even with the Oregon loss, they're still going to get into the playoff. So let's say that they put them at 2. And that they'll put Georgia at 4 because they would have lost. They could put Cincinnati at 3. You would have to put up with the SEC rematch a week later in Ohio with Alabama, Georgia, but you could get Ohio State, Cincinnati there. We're so far away from this even being a realistic talking points, but it would be interesting to see Ohio State against Cincinnati, Fickell versus Day in the playoff. That'd be pretty neat.
No. It would be, I mean, I think every Ohio State fan would love to see Fickell versus Day. I mean, and Urban Meyer will be fired by the Jaguars. He can be on ESPN commentating.
Oh, trust me, he's not going to go to ESPN. The big noon kickoff, they'll find a way to add an extra chair to that table. He will never work for ESPN. Nice. I promise you that much. But there you go.
All right, last one, Justin, is you talked about how Wisconsin normally is a power and they're down, and that's kind of sad because but you also forgot my alma mater, Northwestern, who's represented the Big Ten championship game 2 of the last 3 years. They've been down this year, unfortunately, mostly bad officiating, but they're down this year as well, unfortunately.
Yeah, and James, thank you for the call. Appreciate it. Look, Northwestern is not a powerhouse. Northwestern has actually hurt Ohio State in the Big Ten title game on a few occasions because Northwestern had been in the college football playoff, or they had been in the Big Ten title game as a multiple loss representative from the East, which did not give Ohio State a strong enough opponent in the Big Ten title game to guarantee them a spot to get in. That's why I say it's so important for the Big Ten that Iowa beat Penn State on Saturday. Because what the Big Ten wants is, yes, even if it's a one-loss Ohio State, they want a top 6 Ohio State team from the West facing an undefeated Iowa in the East, because the winner of that makes the playoff. So Northwestern has hurt that in the past because one year they made the playoff as a 3-loss team. Last year they were a 2-loss team or whatever it was. Northwestern does not provide the threat, or they provide a strong enough opponent for the team coming out of the West to make them a lock to make the playoff if they're not undefeated. So that year, a few years ago, when Ohio State missed the playoff just barely, it's because, yes, they did beat Northwestern in the Big Ten title game, but they didn't beat anyone of significance. While Texas and Oklahoma were playing in the Big 12 title game, you had Georgia and Alabama playing in the SEC title game. You had undefeated Clemson, who you knew was going to make the playoff anyways. But Ohio State, they had no chance of making it that year because that's the year that they lost by 30 to Purdue. But also, you weren't playing a good enough team in the Big Ten title game to justify putting them in. Had an undefeated Northwestern top 10 team been there, or an undefeated Wisconsin top 5 team been there, and Ohio State beats an undefeated top 5 Wisconsin team in the Big Ten title game, now you get in. So Northwestern, they've been an interesting storyline the last couple of years, James, but I'm not going to say that they're a powerhouse like Wisconsin by any means, and Wisconsin hasn't been a powerhouse for a while. Caller, I don't have your name. What's up? Well, who is this?
Hey, this is Ed, Justin. How you doing?
Good, Ed. Good to hear from you. How are you doing?
Good. I think this Saturday is going to be big. UC plays Temple. They're 3-2. They're favored by 29 points. Let's see if they beat them by. Let's see if they cover. Let's see if they look like a big boy school.
Yeah, see, that's the pressure on Cincinnati. Winning is not good enough. Like, because you're trying to tell the committee, like the Bearcats, like here's why I feel bad for them to a certain extent. Actually, I lied. I don't feel bad for them because it's the same thing for Alabama and everybody else. When Alabama and Clemson, and Clemson's down this year, but they're a traditional power in this playoff era. But when Clemson and Alabama and Ohio State, when they play bad teams, you're expected to bludgeon them because even though your competition's not great, you are showing the committee that, hey, yes, they are not a strong opponent, but we just beat them by 30 or 40. And that's Cincinnati. Unfortunately, they have so many games against bad opponents that they can't just win by a field goal or they can't just win by 10 points. Like they got to bludgeon every opponent moving forward. I think that's what's going to hurt Cincinnati too, is I think that they're going to win every game moving forward, but I think there's going to be a few of those where they might need a full 4 quarters to beat a very bad team. And that's what I'm concerned about with Cincinnati perception wise.
Well, Justin, lately isn't Ohio State covering? I think you look, let's see if UC can cover or come close to covering. You know, they beat them by 3 touchdowns. That'd be cool. But if they go and beat Temple by 7, you know, I think it's a week-by-week thing, don't you?
Oh, yeah. And so they're a 29-point favorite. And it's like, you know, Cincinnati should be. I mean, if Cincinnati, they're pumping their chest saying we should be one of the top 4 teams in the country. Well, top 4 teams in the country, if you put Alabama against Temple, that line would be bigger. If you put Clemson's bad this year, but Ohio State and so on, those are all gimme throwaway games. Cincinnati can't say, we got a tough one with Temple this weekend. No one would say that if Ohio State was playing Temple. No one would say that if Alabama's playing Temple. So you're not allowed to do this whole, we got a tough conference opponent this week. You don't play in a tough conference, champ. Like you don't. So they don't get the benefit of the doubt there.
I would say the same thing for Ohio State if they didn't beat Temple by 30.
Yep, that's what I'm saying.
I mean, if they squeak by Temple, they probably wouldn't move up. So we'll see what happens. But let's just look at that. See what happens this weekend. It'll be interesting.
Yeah, I'm pretty like so. Cincinnati, if they're going to sit there and say that that's not fair, that we're being expected to blow out all of these teams. Well, Ohio State, after they beat, oh man, why am I spacing here? Who did they just beat at the shoe a few weeks ago that everyone was? They almost lost to them. It was a 1 possession.
Akron?
No,
not Akron.
The game before Akron.
Oh God, I know you're testing me.
Tulsa. So they only beat Tulsa by 21 points. It was a 1 possession game in the 4th quarter, but Ohio State won by 21 points. And guess what? They dropped in the polls. They beat.
That just shows.
They beat Akron and they still dropped. Yeah.
Right. Okay, they dropped. Now, what was the point spread on that one?
On the Akron game, that was 49, and I believe they covered. I was at that game. Yeah,
Tulsa.
Oh, Tulsa. I don't remember that one, to be honest with you, but I know it was by 3 possessions.
Yeah, we'll see. It's going to be an interesting weekend. I was down at the campus at UC just to take the temperature, and the students really got into it. But thank God, no, they didn't overturn cars after the game. They really, I'll give the UC students credit. They didn't go overboard. So
there you go.
It was a big win. But I don't know how high UC can climb. You climbing that mountain. Is that the peak? Have we watched the peak for UC, or can they lose? Will they lose to SMU and fall off the mountain? At some point, UC is going to reach their peak, and then you'll never see a UC team like this another 100 years, probably, I would think.
Yeah, and I guess I get it. The AP poll, it's not like the top 4 in the AP poll make the playoffs, so being in the top 4 doesn't matter technically. But I was annoyed that they purposely put them at 5, like they just couldn't put them at 4. And I'm thinking, they honestly, like, Iowa looks really, really good, and they're a Big Ten team, but Iowa hasn't played anybody. And Cincinnati's undefeated. They're blowing everybody out. They just blew out Notre Dame on the road. They should. I mean, I'm not going to nitpick about.
They beat them by 11. They didn't blow them out. They beat them by 11. And Notre Dame turned the ball over 3 times in the first quarter.
So that's called.
Look at it that way too. If they have one turnover, Notre Dame beats them. So I mean, that was a little. They turned the ball over. They helped Cincinnati out a little bit, but we'll see what happens. It should be a fun Saturday.
Ed, you're forcing me to defend a Cincinnati team. I don't like that. But Ed, good hearing from you, man. We'll talk soon.
All right, thanks, Justin.
Take care. 518-1410. It's the Justin Kinner Show, presented by Orion Sports Medicine and OGW Energy Resources. Cincinnati. I mean, look, man, that's the thing, though. Like, I started to feel bad for them, and then I thought about it. No, they're going to be treated just like everybody else. When Ohio State plays Rutgers and when they play Maryland and when they play these bad teams in the Big Ten, they're expected to bludgeon them. Because if you're Ohio State and you are a top 4 team in the country, you shouldn't need 4 quarters to beat Purdue. You shouldn't need 4 quarters to beat these bad teams in the Big Ten. So Cincinnati, when you play these American Conference opponents, like your conference opponents, you have to blow them out. You have to cover. You have to beat them by 25, 30 plus points every single week. You can't go undefeated the rest of the way with 3 wins being by a field goal or a touchdown and expect to make the playoff. That wouldn't cut it for Ohio State and Alabama, and it shouldn't cut for the Bearcats as well. I keep seeing Bearcats fans saying, well, they're punishing us for playing in a smaller conference. You're lucky you're even in the conversation because you played a smaller conference. And if Ohio State played their conference schedule, Ohio State would bludgeon every single one of those opponents, even when they played bad against one of their conference foes in Tulsa a few weeks ago. A bad game for Ohio State still resulted in a 21-point win. So that's where I'm at with the Bearcats. Like, if Cincinnati beats Tulsa by 21 and we feel like, oh, that's good, but Ohio State beats Tulsa by 21 and that's a bad game, there's differences in perception there. That perception hurts Cincinnati when you have human beings on the committee making these decisions that aren't based on calculations. So we'll see. We'll be back to close out the show on the other side. Don't go anywhere.
It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash, presented by Orion Sports Medicine.
The Kinner's Cash Contest is a company-wide contest for your chance to win $1,000 daily. No purchase necessary to enter or win. You will receive an email confirming entry. One winner will be chosen for each day. Contest is open to U.S. residents 18 years or older. Contest is sponsored by participating Alpha Media stations, Aptivada or their parent, subsidiary, and affiliated entities, advertising agencies, promotional partners, and members of families or households are not eligible to enter or win. Odds of winning depend on number of entries received. Contest is subject to all applicable federal, state, and local laws and regulations, void where prohibited. Participants must sign all contest release and waiver forms to be eligible to win the prize. The contest begins on Monday, October 4th, 2021, and ends on Friday, October 29th, 2021. To participate in the contest, you must listen to the participating radio station at the specified times and